Welcome back, everybody. It has been a few weeks. Just got back from a work trip in Toledo, Ohio at the Air National Guard base there, and while I was in Ohio for those 3 weeks, I managed to do some really fun stuff, and this video is going to chronicle that journey and what the outcome was. So there you see me pulling up to Red Stewart Airfield down in Waynesville near Dayton. And let's start this off right with something from the air show at the end of all of this.
So gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air.
All right, so this is the first plane that I was going to fly down there. It's an Aranca Champ. And this is my first time flying a tailwheel. So during this, I managed to fly 3 different Aranca Champs and 2 different Piper J3 Cubs, and we're going to see a good chunk of that in these videos. It'll be a little bit longer than normal, so skip around if you want, but there's a little bit of something from all of them. There you see the J3 being wheeled out. Anyhow, I'm going to slow this down and go back to the audio for this first ever tailwheel takeoff. This was a beautiful day. This first day that I did this, I had 2 flights scheduled. So the first day I did the Aranca Champ in the morning, which is this one, and then in the afternoon I did my first flight in a J3 Cub. And I don't have video of that J3 flight. I do have video from the second one though, so we'll see that in a little bit. Anyways, after that first departure, we're going to head out over towards the practice area and do air work, which I did in both airplanes. You just don't see it in the J3. So that involves coming out here, we're doing some Dutch rolls, getting used to the adverse yaw effect of those flaps, or not flaps, the ailerons, and how light this plane is. Some steep turns. None of these planes had flaps. None of these planes had electrical systems, which means hand propping, no starters, no radios. They're about as simple as you get and pushing close to 80 years old. But they were really fun to fly. So here you see doing some stalls. Definitely got to get used to the rudder in these things and how light they are and easy to kick around. And then got to do something I've never done before, which this is really fun, and I think I'm gonna slow it down for you here and get you some sound. I'm gonna do the falling leaf. So you hold the stall and try and keep everything coordinated, and the plane just kind of falls back and forth from one side to the other as it stalls kind of back and forth. It's pretty docile. It's a really good exercise for staying on the rudders and rudder coordination. I can't even begin to stress how much fun I had doing all of this. Most fun flying ever. Anyways, back to the field for the first ever tailwheel landing. And all these first ones are just all 3 points. Not too bad. The grass is very, very forgiving. Their field is 150 feet wide for that runway, so you have lots and lots of room to make mistakes and hopefully recover from them. And here you see me doing the tailwheel taxi, where you meander back and forth so you can see over the nose. It's not as big of a deal in the Champ. I can pretty much see over the nose because I fly it from the front. But later on in the J3, you'll see I sit in the back, and from the back of the J3, you definitely can't see that well over the nose. So you have to do that, that little meandering taxi there. So, like I mentioned earlier, this is a longer than normal video. This is over the course of 2 weekends, 3 full days of flying. I managed to log a little over 7.1 hours of tailwheel time between all of the different planes. And I did end up actually getting my tailwheel endorsement out of all of this, which was incredible. I flew with 3 different instructors, and they were all incredible. I can't say enough good things about Red Stewart Airfield. If you have the opportunity to go there and fly, it's totally worth it. And a little bonus at the end, I even got some biplane time in. You'll see some pictures of that. I didn't manage to get any video of that, unfortunately, but still so much fun. And since I was down there for 1 weekend, I also went to the Air Force Museum, got some pictures in there. I'm going to throw those up at the end. And then the second weekend I was there was their annual Labor Day air show out at Red Stewart. So I stuck around for that, and that was an incredible fun time as well. And I've got a couple video clips and pictures from that. In fact, the opening intro you saw there with the national anthem was from that air show at the end. I just figured the beginning of this video was an appropriate place for it. So yeah, just lots and lots of pattern work. Here you can see that the external view of the Champ coming in for a landing. This was not me. This was the same plane shortly after I flew it. Somebody else was flying it, but I figured I'd get a quick video of what it looked like from the outside landing. Up next, there's the J3 I'm getting ready to go fly. So
you're not going to pull it through again, right?
Just get brakes in contact.
All right. Brakes, I'll wait till you're out front for contact.
All right, brother, you ready?
Brakes in contact.
Stick back, throttle crack.
Stick back, throttle crack.
Nice job on the throttle.
Thank you.
Man, those engines.
And that's what it takes to start the J3. So the first flight, which I didn't have a video of in the J3, was the day prior to this, and same thing, went up, did airwork first, stalls, steep turns, turns around a point, all the typical stuff, and then here you see me running through the cigar check, and then a whole bunch of landings. And towards the end of some of these, I got some pretty decent crosswind landings in as well. But for this one, it's all just going to be landings. And every landing in the tailwheel, every landing I did, every takeoff I did was full stop, taxi back. And that's where most of the work is in the tailwheel, is just learning how to control it on landing and takeoff, because that tail can come around and ground loop and bite you. And please, I should have said this at the beginning, this is not meant for training for anybody. I am not an instructor. This is just my experience getting my tailwheel endorsement and all the different flights I had, and really, really fun experiences I managed to have down at Red Stewart. That sight picture in the J3 is definitely different since you fly it from the back seat. between the J3 and the Champ, for training, I think I prefer the Champ. It is easier. It is easier to handle on takeoffs and landings and on the ground in general because you sit up front, you have a better sight picture. It handles better on the ground overall. The J3 is a little more well balanced, it seems like, in flight, and it's a lot more fun once you're in the air with it. You definitely need to mind your taxiing in the J3 because sitting in the back seat, especially with somebody in front of me, I really can't see over that nose if there was anything directly in there, so you just snake your way down the taxiway. These climbs are very, very shallow. Both of these planes, all of these planes, with the exception of the Stearman at the end, have 65 horsepower motors, so they don't have a whole lot to work with. Thankfully, we had pretty cool temperatures, and wasn't too bad. I mean, the climb performance isn't anything stellar, but still so much fun to fly. If you can fly with the door open, it's a good day. Anyways, just lots and lots of crash and dashes here. Well, I guess they're not really a crash and dash, it's more of a full stop taxi backs. I'm just editing out a lot of the mundane stuff. And I think this is my final landing in the Cub. Scott up there was a great instructor. He was a little surprised because I was coming in a little fast on that one, but pulled it off, turned it into a really decent landing. I was pretty happy with how that finished out. And now we just taxi it back to the barn and put it away. Up next, another Champ. This was later that same day, right after the Cub. At this point, the winds had started picking up a little bit. But overall, not too bad. And all of these are still just practicing three-point landings, crosswind stuff as the wind picked up. And this entire flight was just more takeoffs, more landings, just to get that completely dialed in. Now you see putting some slips in as well. All of these planes slip exceptionally well. It's a whole different experience flying these light fabric-covered airplanes than it is the Piper Warriors and Archers and 172s and whatnot that I had been flying. Another slip. So some more stuff about the Red Stewart Airfield. They've got a maintenance service there. They have skydiving there. There's an RC field off to the side, and they have gliders. So there's a little bit of everything. Definitely got to keep your head on a swivel, because most of the airplanes there don't have electrical systems, which means there's no comms. Obviously, there's no tower. Gets you very, very good at looking for other traffic and all of your pattern entry skills and just everything else you need to do. I think every bit of this training makes you a better aviator. Your stick and rudder skills, just learning to look outside the plane, flying outside the plane, learning just how everything kind of feels, the seat of your pants for, is it coordinated, is it not? And that was it for that one. Now, this was the last weekend I was there. I managed to get back-to-back blocks in this Champ and flew it for 2.5 hours. I'd have to go back and look at the logbook to see how many landings I actually had, but we're cutting into the middle of this. We're going to a paved field now because it's time to learn how the tailwheel plane behaves on pavement. I already started this and cut out some takeoffs and landings that morning back at Red Stewart. So here we are coming in with a slip. You notice the weather is not the greatest. The clouds and visibility were fine, but we were dealing with rain for part of that morning. And there were some pretty good winds starting out, so it was challenging. You can see the windsock is dead right now. Every now and then it's picking up with a little bit of gusts. These first few landings are 3-point again, just to get used to how the tailwheel plane behaves on pavement, and it is way different. Pavement is not near as forgiving as the grass. The wheels grip and the plane will want to go one way or another, so you have to be on top of the rudder. Takeoff's fairly easy and uneventful. Beautiful countryside out there too. I really can't get over just how beautiful that entire area is. So spun the camera around so you guys could get a little different camera angle for a change, just looking out at the wing. Just some more 3-point landings and takeoffs. And at this point I was starting to feel pretty comfortable. They were progressing nicely. I didn't seem to have any bad tendencies developing. Every now and then when there was a gust or something, I was able to catch it and correct it. So definitely made me feel better. It's amazing how much you can progress in a few hours as long as you've got good instruction and lots of practice. So now, getting ready to, this is the last 3-pointer, and now it's going to be time to start working on wheel landings. And my first one definitely wasn't pretty. It's an uncomfortable feeling to come down and flare like you normally would to a point, but then have to force the stick forward. You're used to a normal plane where, you know, you pull back on the yoke or the stick and you just keep holding back. Not the case with a wheel landing. As soon as those mains are on the ground, you have to push that stick forward, which is just counterintuitive to what you normally feel. And if you saw there, I almost got into a pilot-induced oscillation. So once I got my mind around how that had to be and forced myself to push that stick forward, it wasn't that bad. And then the next key is just don't keep the tail off the ground any longer than you have to, because you're going to get to a point where you're in that gray area where you no longer have enough airspeed for the tail to keep flying and maintain directional control, but your tail wheel is also not on the ground, so you don't have anything available for your directional control. And differential braking does exist in these planes, but these planes all have heel brakes, and they are not the easiest thing to use. They're also mechanical. And then let the tail down. Yeah, they were getting much, much better towards the end there. Anyhow, that was the last landing you're going to see, because my battery's going to end up dying here because it was such a long flight. But we're going to jump to some footage from the museum and the air show. And yeah, longer than normal video. Hopefully you're enjoying it. It was definitely a fun adventure. For anybody that's following my build series, now that I'm home, I've got goodies in the mail. I'm going to unbox those tomorrow for a video and get started working on some other stuff. I've only got a week at home, and then I'm going to be gone again for a few weeks in Japan. There you go. There's the PT-17. I got to fly it for just under an hour. We squeezed in a flight before the air show. I got to do the takeoff. We did 4 fundamentals of flight, some stalls, steep turns, all kinds of good stuff. And then I got to fly the approach, and then the instructor took the landing in it. But man, what a fun airplane to fly. Anyways, at the museum, you saw the Valkyrie there, and the X-Wing, the flying saucer. I've been to the Air Force Museum before. I hit it this time just to burn a little bit of time between flights and just go see if I could catch some things I hadn't seen there before. If you have the chance, it is an incredible museum. It is open to the public. You don't have to be military. And look, there's the plane I was flying hanging from the ceiling of the museum. I did get a chuckle when I saw that thing hanging up in the museum. There's the good old Memphis Belle. Speaking of building RVs, there's an RV6 doing its thing at the air show. He put on quite the performance. And I'm going to leave you with an airplane donut burnout. I hope you all enjoyed it. Come back for the build videos, and I will see you all on the next one.